Welcome back to Living Grounded. You're here with Lila and Tim,
Hello.
and every week we answer one of your questions. But today we're hearing something a little bit different. We're going to share Tim's top tips for sharing the gospel. And on Sunday, we heard about a few different parables in Matthew 13, especially about the one with the sowing seeds. And we looked at what the worries of life and the deceitfulness of wealth mean, how we can make sure that we're the good soil, and that we shouldn't be surprised when people walk away, but also that we should be challenged to be expectant and optimistic in sharing Jesus. And a question like this came up after the sermon, and we were already thinking about doing this. And so, yeah, we're excited to hear what are your tips to doing evangelism, especially here in the northern suburbs of Wollongong.
Yeah, there is a context to it, isn't it? And obviously, a bunch going on at the moment. We've got Hope for the Illawarra coming up. Easter's coming up. Good spaces, good opportunity. All right. I came up with 8.
That's good.
I think that's 8.
I reckon.
Yeah. So number 1, be in spaces where you can spread the seed of the gospel in word and deed. So, I think the healthiest thing for any Christian is to have a strong church community. So that's kind of your base. That's your anchor along with Jesus, or in combination with Jesus in a sense. But always from that anchor point to be in other communities, at least one other community. Now that might be as simple as your workplace. It could be a sporting team. It could be a hobby group or something like that. It could be a mother's group or just a community of parents connected to the primary school or something like that. Now, the point is have those two communities going on, because then you're in a space where you're rubbing shoulders with non-Christians. It's pretty unlikely that you are going to do any evangelism if you have no contact with non-Christians. All right? I think we all get that. Here's a challenge, maybe a kind of self-diagnosis tool. Could you name 5 non-Christians who you have enough relationship with, enough connection that you could invite them to church or to an event or something like that? If you can't name 5, depending on context, but I'd be encouraging you to think about how could you broaden your community, your relationships, and so on. And that might take time. That's not going to be, there's no instant fix to this. But if you're not sure how to do that in your context, maybe ask your Bible study. Ask some people around you for help. How have you gone at that, Lila? I mean, you're new to Australia. You've kind of come into northern suburbs. Have you gone making connections with non-Christian? How have you done it?
Yeah. Well, one, I'm living with a non-Christian family, so there's definitely
That's helpful.
rubbing shoulders. Yes. But then also I'm part of like a dance class, and so I go to that once a week.
Are you?
Yeah. Wait.
Didn't know that.
It's only once a week.
Yeah.
Even like before like the lesson, you get ready, you talk, what have you done in the week, like you're already doing. And we see each other every week, and so you can like build a relationship there, and then it can go into something deeper eventually, and there's opportunities to share then.
Okay. What form of dancing?
Contemporary.
Okay.
Do you know what that is?
Just being modern, right? Like,
I guess so. I just started, so I'm not gonna shut up.
Yeah. No. Okay. So that's good. That's helpful. Tip number 2: engage in deep life as opposed to surface life. Our community is addicted to surface life, right? And privacy. We don't want people to know what's truly going on in our lives. That's scary. People might think we're failing in life, which most of us are.
Definitely.
They might realize that we're not as smart or capable as we want them to think we are, and so on. And so, keep it surface, and then we can all keep up this illusion about each other, right?
Yeah.
Christians need to be willing to kind of pierce that, both for themselves and for other people. We need to be able to go beyond the surface. Here's what that looks like. I think it's being willing to ask deeper questions. Not necessarily even faith-based ones to begin with, but I've got a guy in my soccer team. He often brings a kid with him, but never a wife. And everyone kind of knows that there's a story there. He's clearly not with the mum of his son. Now, we were sitting having a beer after the game and we could just talk nonsense about the referee and stuff like that. But, I asked him, so what's the story? Were you ever together? Are you divorced? And, he was surprised.
That's uncomfortable.
That's uncomfortable, but he was also fairly happy to talk. We didn't get an opportunity to go as deep as I would have hoped, got interrupted and so on, but that's a start. One little thing to be mindful of in this, just be mindful of going deep in group settings. The more people there are listening, the more the pride guards go up. So it's best when you can do this sort of thing when you find a way to have a little one-on-one setting, over a coffee, over a drink after the game, whatever it might be, going for a walk. But a great way to just do it really simply is just ask people, what's your story? Like what's your life? How did you get here? How did you come to be here? And so on. It usually opens up a thing or two, and hopefully they end up asking you the same question. Sadly, lots of the time they don't these days, but some people still will. All right. Number 3, wear your Christianity on your sleeve. One of the great issues connected with our addiction to surface talk is, how do you get to Christianity from the leather? Like, it's really,
just abruptly. That makes it weird.
Yeah. Do you think rain is God's tears? I don't know. So the best way is to wear Christianity on your sleeve. So as in, when someone says to you, "Oh, how was your weekend? What'd you get up to?" Don't say, "Oh, good, we did nippers," or "Good, I went for a coffee at this cafe," or something like that. Say, "Good, yeah, I actually usually go to church on a Sunday, and it was really encouraging. It was helpful." See where that goes. They may go all day, alarm bells and steer wide, and that's okay. Like, you have a punt. But you never know. They might go, "Oh, you go to church. Okay. Tell us about that." And one question I love to ask people to kind of bring this out and wear my Christianity on my sleeve is, "Oh, yeah, do you like reading? What books do you read?" And people usually like to read and so on. And then that feels a safe enough question that they will ask it back. "Oh, what about you? What do you read?" And I go, now usually I'll say a C.S. Lewis book or something like, something that's, look, I'm reading a theology book on this. Or I'll say some Christian biography or something. And, I've always got one open somewhere, so it's true. Yeah. But so it's not a lie. But, it just, again, it's just opportunities to kind of go, "No, I'm a Christian, actually. I'm quite serious about this." And I think it's actually interesting. You should engage more with me on this.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are we up to? We're up to 4.
Number 4.
All right. Pray for opportunities, for boldness, and for specific people's salvation. So obviously prayer is central. I'm sure as you thought, Tim's tips, prayer is going to be one of them. Yeah, it is. Jesus says to ask, to knock. Bible says God's desirous for people to repent. Prayer isn't magic. It's if you pray for 10 hours for someone, they will be saved or something like that. They'll just believe. No, but God works through our prayers. So pray for opportunities by all means. I think we all kind of have had a go at that at one stage or another, praying for opportunities. But my deepest encouragement is to pray for the boldness to make opportunities happen. We all kind of have this secret desire that evangelism would be easy enough that it would just fall into our path. Someone will just ask the right question or something like that. But generally speaking, what if God wants us to make the opportunity? Pray for the boldness to ask those deeper questions, to share well your answers. Pray for wisdom in who to connect with and how to engage with non-Christians. Pray for the strength to bring yourself to get to work drinks or connect with a person who might not be the easiest to connect with always. Most of all, I think pray for specific people. Pray for God to change their hearts, for the Spirit to call them to Jesus. So have a list of people, again, you've got those 5 people or whatever that you feel like you can connect with. Make sure you're praying for them pretty regularly. I try and pray most days for a different person who's not a Christian.
And sometimes I feel like we pray for opportunities and then they happen and then it's still easy to kind of shy away from not using them. And I recently experienced that when I was praying for those opportunities, and then last week I happened to lose my wallet on a playground when I was playing with the kids, and a really kind guy found me on Facebook, looked me up, and connected with me. Yeah, to give it back, and then I could use that opportunity to invite him to the Hope for the Illawarra thing with his kids. But I came up with that thought of like, oh, I could use this to invite him to talk with him about church. I could just say thanks for the wallet. But yeah, so God gives us opportunities, but then we need to make them happen too.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, look, it's we're talking about a scary thing.
Yeah.
Pray for boldness. Pray for boldness. And have a crack. What's there to honestly lose in a situation like that? Like you might go, oh, that feels a bit, that feels a bit contrived or something like that. But what is there to lose? You just never know. What God can do.
And so much could be won.
That could be one. Number 5, practice hospitality where you can. Not everyone has a house or a space where you can easily do this, but plenty of us do. Some of my most effective evangelisms happened over, not this dinner table. I hate it. But the other dinner tables, I'm sure it'll happen over this one too. But when you welcome people into your home, it gives you the space, it gives you the kind of privacy and the environment to engage in deeper conversations. Usually it takes time, over dinner it might still stay a bit service, but by dessert, people are usually a little bit open to even talking about something like religion. And look, again, be wise. It doesn't really work with big groups. Alita and I made this mistake, I think, early on in our years. We would just invite as many people as possible into our house. People won't talk again if there's lots of people around. They're just very cagey. So they're scared of the social fallout. So it can work if you've got come have dinner. I've got a few other friends coming over, and it's 3 Christians and 1 non-Christian. That can kind of work sometimes because they feel that's a little bit safer and so on. But either way, hospitality is a great way to drop barriers. 6, know the gospel and be able to explain it. I won't put you on the spot, give us your gospel in 3 sentences. But the Bible is really clear on this, that the gospel is the power of salvation. It's through hearing that faith comes. And the greatest opportunity in life is to be able to share the gospel with someone. The question is, could you do it? Could you really do it faithfully? In a concise, kind of logical way that the Bible seems to do. You might only have 5 minutes with them. Could you kind of do it in 5 minutes? Now, this is where gospel tracts, little pamphlets and so on have been helpful. 2 Ways to Live is a famous one in Australia. Bridge to Life. Is there a gospel one? Is there a German gospel tract that's famous?
Probably. I can't recall it right now. No.
I was hoping you quote some great German.
There,
Yeah. Now, you don't necessarily have to use one of those to come up with your gospel message, but if you struggle to kind of go, oh yeah, how would I articulate it? Well, just use one of theirs. You can find those on websites and so on. But I think if you want best practice on this, the best is when you can kind of weave a bit of your story in with a large portion of the gospel. So I kind of disagree with some who would go, oh, it's your testimony that's the key. I don't think that's actually what Revelation is saying when it's, by the blood of the Lamb, the word of their testimony. No, it's the testimony that he's talking about in Revelation. It's the apostles' testimony about Jesus. It's like, it's the gospel. Yeah, that's right. As opposed to our story. But I do think our story does have a real resonance to it and is a real helpful way of connecting with the story of Jesus with the story of our life. And so, for me, usually if I get the opportunity, it would look like this. I say something like, look, I walked into a church when I was in my teens. I liked youth group. I hung around. The people were really nice. To be honest, I don't know if I was actually a Christian. I think I just liked the people and the space. But I kind of got into my mid-20s and I was going to church, but I was also at university enjoying a lot of other things in life. and kind of going, hang on, do I even believe this? And that led me to do some more research, to study the Bible a bit more. And I come to the conclusion, and I still can't come to any other conclusion than that Jesus is who he says he was, that he's actually God, that he died on a cross, that we've got a massive problem called sin, and he died for the forgiveness of sins, and that he was actually raised from the dead in God's power. And I look at all that and I go, he is who he says he is, and I need to follow him as my Lord, and I have been. So yeah, I think that's true of everyone. I think there is a heaven, I think there is a hell, and I think every single one of us needs to wrestle with who they think Jesus is. So that's a little bit of my story, but big piece of the gospel in there, fullness of the gospel in there, under 3 minutes or something like that. And people are usually be like, oh, okay, haven't heard it like that, They're waiting for someone to say, oh, I had a huge alcohol problem and, I just needed God, or I just grew up in Christianity. Now, that may be your story, and that's fine. But I think through how you could weave your story in with is the truths of the gospel.
Oh, yes.
All right, where are we up to?
7, I think.
2 more to go. Quick one. Invite to spaces where harder questions can get answered. I mean, what often happens is you might give your, hey, here's what I believe, or something along those. But that then usually raises a lot of questions. Even just this Sunday, a member of Village came up to me and said, hey, I told a person at work that I'm a Christian, or, we started talking about Christianity, and they hit me with the, how can there be a God if there's so much suffering in the world? Something to essentially like that. And that's pretty common, right? People have got lots of questions. There's some hard questions out there. And not many Christians feel overly equipped to answer particularly that question, but lots of other ones as well. So, and let alone at work in, the 10 minutes you've got for smoko or something like that. You didn't know it, no. Lila didn't know what smoko was.
But it is a helpful way to use that at a third time.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the best thing to often do is say, look, I don't know that I can fully articulate the answer to your question. I think there is an answer to your question in the Bible, but I don't know if now and I am the best person equipped to do that. Why don't you come to church and ask my pastor that question? Or why don't you come to this live series thing that we do, and you can ask your question there, have a discussion about it. Or would you read a book? Or if I sent you an article, would you read it? Because I think there is a really good answer to this question. I think it's really important to say there is answers to the questions. I've not yet encountered a question that there isn't an answer to. Christianity has been going for 2,000 years. There are no questions that have been asked that are new. I think it's good to just state that, but also to go, I might not be able to articulate it well to you. Would you, can I send you somewhere where someone else can, or whatever. If you're not sure where to go, send me a text, send me an email. Obviously, I'm very happy to help on that. Last one, bring them into community. I think one of the hardest things about Christianity in the northern suburbs is what we might call the plausibility problem. So people may be intrigued. They might even be open to the message of Jesus. But it's the idea of living as a Christian that just seems so strange, so implausible, so hard to imagine. And they just need to see people doing it. The more, the better. The more they see normal people living Christian lives, the more they see them living happy Christian lives, but also just ordinary Christian lives. It helps people kind of see that it isn't just plausible, but it's better. It's good. It's really lovely. But without exposure to more Christians, they'll think you're an anomaly. They'll think you're a really nice person. And rather than realizing that's because of your Christianity, rather than realizing actually lots of Christians are kind of like that, they'll just go, you're kind of this weird person.
Yeah.
Awesome, but weird. So figure out ways to invite people into spaces where they will engage with other Christians. Now, church is obviously kind of like the primary candidate there. But maybe it's inviting them to the park with a bunch of other village mums, or out for a drink with some other members of the village, or go to a sporting event together or something like that. And not just once, try and do it regularly. It's not going to just rub off one time. But as that person kind of makes friends with your friends and goes, oh, wow, yeah, these guys are great. That's where they'll really start to begin to see, actually, Christian, there's something to this Christianity. On the other side of this, if someone from village says, come for a coffee with me and my non-Christian friend, say yes. Go and do that thing. Prioritize that to connect with them, because that's a bringing them into community, helping them see that this other Christian isn't the only one that's like this. So that's my 8. Have you got one more?
One thing, just embrace the discomfort. It's really worth it. On Sunday, you said something like, it's not hard, it's just scary.
Yeah.
And that really resonated with me on many different things, because it's true for many different things. But I think especially here, it doesn't seem like the normal thing to do, but it is so worth it. And in Acts 4, it says, or Paul says there, we can't help but share about what we've seen and heard. And I think I want to pray to come to that point that I can't help but share the good news that we have. And also, it's like a fertilizer for the good soil.
Yep.
You shared on Sunday.
Yeah.
And so it's a really good thing to do. Thank you for those tips. I think that was really helpful. Yeah.
We would scatter more seed in the northern suburbs. Wouldn't that be a beautiful, powerful thing?
Oh, yeah. And also share with your Christian friends about those things that you were able, like opportunities that you had to share. That's always encouraging to hear. Pray for those with each other. Because you're not doing that on your own. But yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Good. Anything else we should know about for this week?
No, look, pray for hope for the Illawarra this weekend. We haven't made too big a song and dance about it, but it is a really helpful, good thing that's happening. And even if you can't make it yourself, or you haven't been able to invite someone to it or something like that, we've got a bunch of our young people going to the Friday night youth event. We've got a bunch of kids going to the Saturday morning event. And there will be a bunch of adults going from many, many, many churches to the Saturday night event. So pray for that. Pray that people get saved. And
Yes. If you have any questions that you want us to answer on here, send them in via the website, the app, or the church phone, and they're going to stay anonymous. That's it for today. See you next week, and auf Wiedersehen.
Ja.